Tennessee's season has felt like a big-budget thriller. The plot? Seeking vengeance after decades of pain. Led by Heisman frontrunner Hendon Hooker, the Vols have used this year to wage vendettas and settle scores. First, payback against Pittsburgh after last season's loss at home. Then, avenging the past 5 years against Florida and making a statement to open conference play. Their greatest triumph so far, getting the ultimate revenge against a most formidable foe. Taking down Alabama for the first time since 2006, sending Knoxville into a frenzy and their own goalposts into the river. But now the toughest test of all, between the hedges against the defending national champs. The Dogs own 5 straight wins over the Vols and are winners of 10 of the last 12 in the series, presenting yet another opportunity for Tennessee to get even.
You can win a game with confidence because you've paid the price, you've worked, you've prepared to go out and play the right way. Both teams, I'm sure, are confident and should be.
But Georgia's looking for a Hollywood ending of its own. Kirby Smart's group pulled off quite the job last season, beating their kryptonite when it mattered most. And this year's Dogs, vicious, hungry, and well aware they'll need to be all bites in order to handle this vengeful Tennessee team.
We have to keep getting better. Like, we're not there, and people want to put us there, but we're not there.
The Dogs looking to remain on top. The Volunteers here to cross another name off their list. The cast is star-studded. The stage is set. The scenes in Athens promise to be pure theater. And we have it live on CBS.
Sanford Stadium will be rocking Saturday afternoon. Kirby Smart telling the fans, if you can talk when you leave, you didn't yell enough. Tennessee and Georgia in the game of the century on CBS, a top 3 matchup for the SEC East and a clear path to the playoffs. Let's welcome in the guys who know these teams better than anyone else, Wes Rucker and Kipp Adams. Guys, obviously the Vols grabbing the most headlines with the most productive offense in the country. Hendon Hooker running Josh Heupel's tempo offense to perfection. But Kipp, everyone wants to know, how did the Bulldogs slow him down?
Yeah, Kirby Smart is excited as anyone to see that number 3 unveiled for Georgia on Tuesday in the college football playoff rankings. Plenty of bulletin board material all week for him and his coaching staff. This Tennessee offense is one that's comparing very favorably to that 2019 LSU offense that just tore through every single team on its schedule. Georgia's defense is not last year's defense, but it's playing pretty close to that, holding opponents to under 11 points per game. And really, through this SEC schedule, they've been able to do really well as far as just limiting big plays. And that's going to be the key on Saturday. Keeping Tennessee, away from the big explosive plays that Hendon Hooker's known for. And I think you look at this secondary for Georgia, it's a young secondary, but very talented. And if they can get some pressure on Hendon Hooker and force them to make some bad decisions early, they can get them behind the sticks and really get the defense kind of pinning their ears back and doing what they enjoy doing, which is just pressuring quarterbacks with 3 or 4 guys and allowing the back end of that secondary to make plays in the football. So I think if you look overall at Georgia's defense, it's still at that level that Kirby Smart's known for. At the other end of it, though, this Tennessee offense is a different beast, and it's one that Georgia really hasn't seen. I don't think Georgia wants to get in the shootout. So I think the key for Georgia, keeping them under 30 points.
I think it's a really good point, Kipp. I know as good as Kirby Smart's record has been since he's been in Athens, that one bugaboo's kind of been when teams get to 30 points, that they've historically had a tough time keeping up with that. Although I will say Tennessee's offense, as many possessions as there are in a game, that makes it a little bit easier maybe to win a game when the opponent scores 30 points. But I think Kipp made a lot of good points. I think the only thing he really didn't mention there was the secret sauce for Tennessee's offense, and that's the run game. People talk about how spread apart they are, how those big plays chucking the ball downfield, and they're very good at that. But one of the reasons they can do that is because if you only put 5-6 guys in the box, they're gonna run for 5-6 yards a carry, and they're gonna do that all day long. And the team that can stop Tennessee from doing that, the team that can kind of thin out the box but still stop the run, will be the team that kind of contains Tennessee's offense. Because as far as I can see it, there's three ways to beat Tennessee and three ways only. You can either beat them up front really badly, you can hope Hendon Hooker has a bad day, or he can score 50 points. If you can do any of those three things, you can beat Tennessee, but you got to do one of the three.
That's a big list. And Wes, I'm so happy you mentioned the run game because the Vols are one of the best run teams in the country. Kipp, to your point, Georgia doesn't want to get stuck in a shootout. Their offense looked unstoppable to start the season, but they've since been hit by the turnover bug. So I kind of want you to explain that situation in a second. But first, Wes, Tennessee's defense finally proved itself against Kentucky, holding the Cats to 6 points. Maybe there's still some questions there. What can we expect on that side of the ball?
Oh, I think there's still questions there. There's fair questions there, but I think Tennessee's defense has never been quite as bad as people think it is. And the reason is, like I mentioned earlier, you look at the possessions per game, you look at the plays per game. Tennessee's defense is on the field more than most defenses are. And that's because of the way that they play the game. And that's because of the way they want to play the game. But when you do that, you're going to give up some more points. So I think for Tennessee's defense, you have to look at other metrics in terms of, yards per play, things like that. But still, Tennessee is still, scoring defense, I think fourth in the SEC, which for all the amount of time they spend playing offense and all those plays, that's a big deal. I think their scoring defense, their bend but don't break, has been pretty effective. But this is a different kind of opponent. This is a big game. Now, if Tennessee goes out there and plays as well defensively as it did against, say, Pitt, against LSU, against Kentucky, well, then Tennessee has a chance to go win this game. But I don't think that their defense is great necessarily, but I also don't think it's as bad as people say it is. The questions I have are is Georgia going to take care of the football? And is Georgia going to be good in the red zone? Because I think they're going to have opportunities in the red zone. It's just a matter of, are they getting 7 or are they getting 3?
And then that's the key difference here in this game. I think you look at the two defenses, you could see a clear difference in the way Georgia's defense has played. Similar to last year, Tennessee's defense played well the last couple of weeks, but again, against those upper tier opponents, you watch that Alabama game, it was a shootout. And for all the people that are looking at Kirby Smart's record when they've given up 30 or more points, it's 1-9. Kirby Smart's record whenever they've scored 30 or more points, it's 53-1. So again, Georgia doesn't want to get in the shootout in this game, but again, if they can get the 30 points themselves, it probably means they're in pretty good shape. So that's kind of that key number in this game. And as you said, turnovers, it's kind of struck Georgia the last couple of weeks. Stetson Bennett's had a couple interceptions in that Florida game. One of them was kind of a freak interception, but another throw he'd like to have back. And they've had some fumbles as well. You can't turn the ball over in a matchup like this. It's going to be a key factor in this game. Can Georgia prevent those mental mistakes, those big key turnovers, and give Tennessee more possessions? Because as Wes said, they're going to want to keep that time of possession in their favor. Georgia's number 1 in time of possession, and Tennessee's, outside of the top 100 for a reason. Their drives don't last long. So for Georgia, you have a long, methodical offense. You dink and dunk down the field and get into that red zone. And as Wes said, in the red zone, Georgia's number 1 in the country in the red zone scoring. If this comes down to that, you got to like Georgia's chances.
Well, one team has to lose here, and everyone has their own opinion or theory on how one-loss teams can make the playoff. But, guys, give me a case for each team here. How does the result of this game affect their playoff hopes? And, Kipp, we'll start with you.
Well, again, I mentioned the red zone. If this game is close in the third and fourth quarter, does this game come down to a field goal kick? I think, you look at Jack Podlesny, he's been really solid for Georgia the last couple of years. He's a guy that, they can count on if they need him for a big kick. Tennessee's kicker, he's missed a field goal each of the last 2 games, been pretty solid. But if it comes down to that in a, what should be a very raucous stadium, Sanford Stadium, as you mentioned earlier, Kirby Smart calling on those fans, if it comes down to a big kick, can the Volunteers get it when they need it? That's going to be what I'm looking for if it's a close game in the third and fourth quarter.
Yeah, Kipp, I think there's a really good points, and I think I'd add a couple. I think pressure is a big factor in this game, because I think as soon as those playoff rankings came out, then with this game being at Sanford Stadium, this is clearly a game I think that Georgia needs more than Tennessee does. I think if Tennessee loses this game and it's competitive, I think a one-loss Tennessee team still has a really good chance of being in the college football playoff. If it goes the other way, if Tennessee's beating Georgia in this game, well, then it could come down to what happens in Atlanta, whether or not Georgia gets a chance to go to the playoff. Because I don't know if the league is going to get 3 into the playoff. We'll see. That's never happened before. So I think the pressure is a big thing to watch in this game. And I think the other thing is sort of, will Tennessee be affected by crowd noise? Tennessee goes so fast offensively. They work on a lot of that silent count stuff anyway every week, even at home. So I don't know if they'll be as affected as much as other teams will in terms of playing on the road. It didn't really seem to bother him at all down at Tiger Stadium. Didn't seem to bother him all up at Pitt. So I don't think I don't know if that's going to be a huge concern. We'll see. I might say differently around 4:30 Eastern or so on Saturday, but right now I don't think that's a huge concern. So the biggest question I have is, can Tennessee keep Stetson Bennett hemmed in the pocket? That guy, he squirms out of there. He extends plays. He makes your life trouble on that side of the ball. If they can keep him in the pocket, if they can keep him from extending plays, I think they have a chance to do some contain work on defense and make this a game. But in terms of the pressure, I think a lot of it is on Georgia more than Tennessee in this game.
All right, thanks for your time, guys. Envious of you both for covering this game this weekend. Remember, you can find more of their work at Dogs 24/7 and Go Vols 24/7.